Well, good morning, and I apologize for being a little late. Adventurous here some days on the interstate. Please do pray for the people that keep our roads clean and clear. I think it's extremely important that we pray for them on days like this particularly. I apologize, but there's really only one way to start this sermon. And that is, do you remember? Do you remember if you've had this day, the day that you were married? I had just completed 3 years of a rigorous theological training at Virginia Theological Seminary. I graduated with a master's degree in divinity, which puffs you up exactly as it sounds. I was to be expert in sacramental worship. I was to be profound in public address. I was to be deeply reflective in teaching. I was to be professional in pastoral situations and be with you at home and hospital. And I graduated with all of that. And I looked awesome. And 2 days later, taking all of that knowledge and all of that experience, I got married. Boy, what a day that was. To this day, the couples that I work with, when we work with our couples getting married, they say, "Father Brooks, you're so sensitive about things that work and things that don't." And I say, "Yes, I am." And I don't tell them everything in our wedding day did not work. Not one thing worked that was supposed to work. And when you remember moments like that, they tend to kind of mark you for life. For instance, I lost my keys, like any good groom would do, whose head completely just falls out of, the brain comes out of the skull. I lost my keys the day of my wedding. And I scoured the campus of Virginia Theological Seminary looking for keys. I think I have scuff marks on my tuxedo because we were looking for these stupid keys. I was so distraught and I got so worked up that I needed to take someone gave me a little tablet for my stomach. And I never thought about this, but on the video of our wedding, my tongue is bright pink. I look like I'm doing Gene Simmons the entire wedding, you know. So embarrassing. When my kids look at this video, they ask me questions like, "Daddy, you're not blinking. Daddy, you haven't blinked in 20 minutes. How were you feeling?" And it's hard to do, really, to be in that kind of traumatic state for a man. This is when we do weddings, I tend to look at our grooms during the ceremony and say, "Are you with me?" Stomp twice for yes. You know, and the ways that men tend to communicate with the subtlety and the nuance during those kind of emotive moments. You know, "You need to look at her now. Okay, she's there." You know, these little clues that kind of get men through these ceremonies. That was exactly me. In our own reception, I never ate any of the food that we had so meticulously chosen. I never even saw food. I didn't even saw my wife at our reception, now that I think about it. I was wandering around in that beautiful state that men get after something big and emotional has happened. We fugue out. We'll figure it out about 8 years from now, what's happening to us. And finally, the photographer says, "We're going to cut the cake. You need to come over here." And my honest response was, "We're going to have cake? Great." I had forgotten we were going to eat cake. I thought, wow, what a neat deal this is, you know. And then after the cake, we take some pictures, and my youngest brother puts his hand on my shoulder. No kidding. He said, "You're going to leave now." I said, I am? He said, "You're going to leave now. You're going to get into the car with Julie, and you both are going to go somewhere now." I said, "Okay." And he said, "Do you need any help on what happens next?" And I said, "No, I think I got this." He said, "You're not acting like it." So he walked me to the car, and he put me in the car, and he said, "Don't call us." And he closes the door to the car, and off Julie and I went. What a neat deal. I get to spend a night with this beautiful woman. Awesome, you know. I'm clueless. Just because we do list our sermons on YouTube, does anybody else want to stand now and share stories from your wedding? Anybody remember those beautiful moments that the best and worst of two families on full display? Jesus chooses a very interesting moment to conduct his first miracle. In this very short season of Epiphany, Mark talked last week about the epiphanies of our lives, the moments when God really shows up and breaks through. And Jesus chooses a doozy in the Gospel of John. It's not Matthew, Mark, and Luke. We're not healing paralytics. We're not feeding thousands of people or healing leprosy or anything like that. In the Gospel of John, Jesus chooses a wedding to reveal himself. What an awesome place to do that. Now, this story is actually not about the wedding. The story is actually about how God reveals himself. The word epiphany means to reveal, to be manifested in a new way. And I'd like to just look at this story. Yes, it's an awesome story for Episcopalians. I get the fact that we're drinking wine. Okay, I got that. But if you kind of look past that, there's something else at work. First of all, what is used for this miracle? Water in jars by the door. Isn't that exciting? Wow. Can God show up with something by the door? This is in every home in the Middle East. There were stone jars by the door, and they used water to wash the feet. The servant of the house would wash the feet of people as they came into a home, because traveling in the ancient world, you picked up a lot of stuff on the road. They didn't have Nike back then. They had sandals. Traveling on the road with animals, carts with produce, all kinds of dogs, even back then, cats, all on this road, so your feet would become quite untoward. So we replicate this in the valley with the door Nazis in the valley. If you happen, you don't have to raise your hand, are you one of those people that will look at me when I come into your house? It's so good to have us. Okay. Take your shoes off right now. Which is that warm welcome that you expect as a pastor. So get those shoes off. Okay. I even love it if you have alternative slippers for me to wear. That's even funner in the house. You live in the mountains of Colorado, but we don't want to track dirt into the house, right? Okay, so this is the way it was in the ancient world. And so here, all this water to wash the feet, that's all it's there for. It's not purified water. It's not sparkling versus tap. It's not water to be used to drink. It's water to wash your feet. And Jesus uses the most ordinary thing that they've seen 100,000 times to reveal himself. What's sitting right in front of us today that looks so ordinary that God could use to change your heart? I have to tell you that this week, this lesson came home to me in a very powerful way. I did something on your behalf that I do from time to time as a priest. I attended the death of a young man who was 2 months older than I am. It had been a hellacious week in our church. Reports, articles, writings, letters. I was behind the moment I woke up in the morning. The whole week, my daughter has something in her knee, and things are just kind of falling apart the whole week. And right in the middle of the week, I get a call to come up to the Galvin House in Mountain Star. And I attended, on your behalf, the death of a 51-year-old wonderful man. He's the nephew of our own Steve and Karen Baird, and they were there. So I prayed with Father Jim Baird from the Catholic Church over Rob, and we were there as he died. Steve and I helped take Rob's body out of the house. trees do that too. I got done visiting with the family. I got in my car. I looked at the steering wheel. And I thought, I couldn't put together a coherent thought. I didn't know where I was going to go. I didn't know what I was going to do. Every phone call, everything I had to do just fell right out of my head. And I drove home. I walked into my house, and here are these stone jars sitting right in front of me in the house. Now, they're not actually stone jars in our house. What was the stone jars that Jesus used to reveal himself to me? It was the Christmas tree that I preached on on Christmas Eve. If some of you were there, I hadn't even stopped to look at our own Christmas tree this entire holiday season. Isn't that stupid? It's been right in front of me. I never even stopped to look at it. I took out my mother's creche. Does anybody's mom made those ceramic creche that you paint? They all look the same. It's just like the paint's different. My mom painted this creche, and I took it out because my daughter's graduating high school. I want her to remember it. I set up the creche, and I didn't even remember what it looked like. I hadn't even stopped to look at my own mother's creche. Isn't that dumb? And then, as I'm standing there, my wife walks in. We haven't talked in a week. I'm busy, she's busy, we all get busy. And I thought, I haven't even stopped to talk to the woman that God has blessed me with for almost 24 years. She married Scottish, and by the way, after that wedding, she stayed. It's amazing. I have a blessing right in front of me, and I never even saw her. Isn't that stupid? Then I have 2 daughters still in the house. They came in. They talked to me. I have kids that actually talk to me. You want to talk about a blessing? You want to talk about water being made into wine for a father? I spent time that afternoon with both my daughters because I needed to be reminded about the blessings that I had been given. I didn't write an email. I'm sorry I didn't call you back. I didn't finish a report, some articles I missed. And I just stopped and I said, thank you to God for what was right in front of me, and I never even saw it. And it took someone dying to remind me about what it's like to live with all of God's grace. Let's move on to the second part of this amazing story. I'm bad at math. I need your help. Does John want you to know how much water was in those jugs? Can someone do a little biblical math with me for a second? How many jugs, please? He lists it in the text. How many? Just to make sure we're clear. 6. Holding each how much? Let's call it 30 for easy math. We're Episcopalians. We'll take the high number, please. How much water was in those jugs? 180 gallons. Everybody good on that? 6 times 30? 180. How many gallons of wine then on the other side? Awesome! Right? Isn't that great? Can you imagine being the caterer at that party? I love it when I visit your homes, because you will give me the best wine I've ever had in my life. And I want to tell you, I don't tell you when I visit, that I'm from South Florida. My idea of a big night in high school was Boone's Farm Strawberry. Do you remember Boone's Farm back in the day? And it was on sale, and it was great. Nothing says you're interested in a young lady like Boone's Farm Strawberry, right? I mean, come on. And if you can't do that, then PBR is just awesome. So, you give me this beautiful wine. You tell me where it's from in France. I don't know where that is, but I'll drink it and smile. It's really awesome. I have no idea what I'm drinking, but I do smile and nod like I know. And we have a wonderful time together. The caterer of the wedding in the story of John looks in astonishment and he says to the groom, "Where did this come from? I brought all the wine. You've got better than I have. It wasn't just a little bit of water and a little bit of wine. It was 180 gallons. Does anybody miss the point that Jesus is making here? When Jesus reveals himself, it's not just small, it's humongous. Lives are changed. Hearts are healed. Marriages uplifted. Hurts forgiven. When Jesus shows up, amazing things happen. Can I tell you that we have prayed? I haven't told you, I prayed for a solid month. Prayer the priests pray in December. Does anybody know the December priest prayer? Come on. That we end the year with a good budget. You think I worry about Christmas pageants, but underneath the pageant, I'm worrying about the budget. Guess what happened through your generosity? We just received 180 gallons of the best wine we've ever received. I love it when members of our finance committee and vestry are shocked in a good way. Because when Jesus shows up, he makes a really strong point. That's just what happened in your church. And I cannot thank you enough. It's amazing when Jesus shows up, how things are different. Last point of this story. What was the reaction of the disciples? Yes, they're drinking some of the wine, so let's give them that. But what's the reaction to what happens? John tells you, just at the very end of the story, what happened with those disciples? They're standing right there. They've been listening to Jesus teach and preach. What's their reaction, please? Anybody tell me? They say it again, Jim?
They finally believed it.
They start to say, oh my God, this guy is exactly who he says he is. When Jesus reveals himself, we always know who he is. We're always drawn closer to who he is. Every time God shows up, we're drawn closer to Jesus. That's how we know it's him. Star in the sky, wine on the table, healing, feeding, every single time we're drawn closer. May I ask you, where's your epiphany now? There is a moment for God to reveal himself to you and to me. I've shared some of mine with you. May I close with, where is yours? Where are the places that God is saying to you, this is who I am. You can trust me. You can believe in me. I'm real and I'm right here. May I close with the best birthday card I ever got from you. One of you sent me a great birthday card. I turned 50 last year, and on the front of the card is a priest sitting in a car with a police officer standing in front of the window. And the priest is saying, "What did I do, officer?" And on the front of the card, the police officer says, "What do you have in the back of the car?" You open the card, and the priest says to the officer, "There's a bunch of water in the back of my car." And the next page, the police officer's looking in the back and says, "Sir, that's not water." And when you close the card, the back page of the card has the priest responding to the police officer, "Oh my Lord, he's done it again." Friends, Jesus can do it over and over and over again. He can take the things right in front of you and turn them into miraculous, extraordinary moments of blessing. He can take little things and turn them into extravagant, large moments of blessing. And whenever he does, you will be drawn closer to Christ and to the heart of God. Have a wonderful Epiphany season. Amen.